Hey everyone, my name's Jacob and I'm the regular whiskey dude, and today we're going to talk about the Dewar's 15, which I think is a great 15-year-old Scotch whiskey. So let's get started. So the Dewar's 15 is one of these type of whiskeys that I really admire because they solve a very particular purpose. And by what I mean, it's a whiskey that gives you that experience of drinking something older, slightly, especially if you're more accustomed to drinking 12-year-old scotches or just whiskeys without age statements. You know, Dewar's is the type of whiskey, it's not particularly expensive. You know, depending on your state, country, or region, it varies from like 20 something to 40 something bucks, which obviously depending on your location. Here in Poland, I've managed to get it at a supermarket chain for like 22 bucks on a bargain, which, you know, is just like a tremendous bargain, to be honest. But yeah, let's start off with some context about Dewar's in particular. I am not a very sophisticated provider of stories about certain whiskey, so I'll just revert to the internet. So about Dewar's, yeah, something famous whiskey brand that has been around for 100 years. People love it, obviously. The company has worked hard to build a strong reputation, something. We pride ourselves at doing whiskey, yada yada yada, and yeah, people enjoy it. So yeah, TLDR, this is a really good whiskey. I think there were even a couple of instances of some celebrities doing advertisements for that. I think it was even Sean Connery doing like a James Bondy type of advertisement, something along the lines of,
What are you talking about? It's Dewar's 12. Enjoy it now. Someday, you'll understand.
So if you ask me, this is a great gateway to the world of Scotch whiskey, especially by Dewar's, if you are a fan of the James Bond franchise. But yeah, in all seriousness and just going back to basics, so this is a 15-year-old Scotch combined from malt and grain whiskeys. The malt component is actually from Aberfeldy, a very popular Highland slash Speyside single malt whiskey. So let's get going. Obviously, you know, I can read the bottle as per usual, so with the same kind of fashion as I have approaching towards descriptions of whiskey history and that sort of stuff. Yeah, John Dewar's and Sons Limited, Perthshire, Scotland. Perthshire, I suppose. Sorry for my pronunciation. Special reserve blend. We source the smoothest, most characterful Scotch malts and grains, aged not less than 15 years old, for a whiskey of great character. So as per usual, something great, sophisticated, adventurous, all these kind of adjectives. Let's, I suppose, have a drink. Because that in particular is, I reckon, the most important factor if you're selecting your Scotch. And as I mentioned in the intro, I personally find this whiskey very useful. Quite on a similar level of usefulness as the Singleton 12. So on the nose, it doesn't necessarily provide anything overly exciting. It just gives you upfront that kind of grainy element, which I suppose is something to be expected, that given that we have a blended Scotch that has malt and grain whiskeys in it. So, as I mentioned in my previous videos, I'm not the type of guy to provide you really with a deep characterization of different tasting notes, but my kind of first association on that first sip is a bit more deepened type of taste that comes with, say, like Chivas Regal 12. And that's what I wanted to provide as my main point with Dewar's 15, is that it kind of gives you that slightly older Scotch vibe to it, if you're used to drinking 12-year-old blends or even 12-year-old single malts, is that you might think that 3 additional years of maturation is not that a lot, but it is. Trust me. If you're especially, well more accustomed to these kind of 12-year-olds or even non-age stated whiskeys, it really encapsulates that kind of Chivas Regal plus, if I may, level of enjoying Scotch, if that's your case. Yeah, and while the nose was very grainy, the kind of palate is very nicely balanced. You still kind of pick up the grain whiskey, but I reckon that given these 3 additional years of maturation, the whiskey, and especially the taste of the grain whiskey is way more tamed and kind of balanced. Yeah, so on the label they mentioned that they're using a provided double aged for extra smoothness. Double aged might be, I don't know, double cask, or the main maturation is within a single cask, with one particular cask, and then just to kind of add more smoothness, they probably throw in like a additional ex-sherry cask for just the kind of finishing touches of it. I wouldn't say any of these particular notes that are characteristic of either like a bourbon cask or like a ex-sherry cask. Any of these are not kind of popping up. It's more like a very balanced tasting profile of something sweet, slightly some maybe hints of like dark fruits, but in no means is like similar to any sort of these sherried whiskeys. But overall it kind of delivers everything in a neat kind of package of you're drinking slightly older Scotch, and this is a pleasant experience. If I were to sum up Dewar's 15 in one nutshell, it's just like a very pleasant experience of a blended Scotch that has some extra years on it. Sometimes for whiskey aficionados, there's that kind of idea that once you're experienced with drinking entry-level whiskeys, you want to progress to like 12-year-old single malts or blends. It's easy to get kind of drawn into the idea of like, oh, I want to kind of step up my game with these age statements. And obviously, as you could probably notice on like liquor store shelves or like general stores, older whiskeys tend to be more pricey, but in a non-linear fashion. So you certainly would want to jump in, and if you're enjoying, say, like a Glenfiddich 12, you would want to progress to a Glenfiddich 15. But I'd say these type of scotches, especially blends, they really offer you that kind of really relevant hint of what to expect if you want to try slightly older scotches. Because it's way easier to have a comparison between like the Dewar's 12 and 15 and kind of feel out the difference on what you might expect in similar types of whiskeys. I also really, really enjoy the Dewar's 12, but if you're comparing them head to head, the 15 is definitely provides that kind of older whiskey vibe of being slightly more tamed and rounded off, and especially given the grain element of it, it's way less unpleasant with that typical grain whiskey. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say, anything in particular jumps in terms of taste, but it's a really neat and pleasant delivery, if that makes sense. Especially, with a blended Scotch, I really like how the grain whiskey, which I'm not a particular fan of, how with these kind of 3 additional years, you can start to even slightly appreciate some of the characteristics of even grain whiskey, which tends to be very harsh and unpleasant. And there are a few additional whiskeys that would be worth mentioning. I think the first one would be the Dimple 15. I think in the US it goes by Dimple Pinch, and I think even one particular chemistry teacher has been drinking it in one TV series. And obviously then you have like the Chivas Regal 15 and I'm not sure if there's a Valentine's 15. No, there's only the 17. So I say like the closest it would, in terms of like any particular rivalry or competitive whiskeys, that would be the Dimple Pinch, the 15-year-old, and the Chivas Regal 15. And I'm actually happy to do like a head-to-head comparison. So let me know in the comments if that's something that you would want to see in particular. Okay, so that's it for today. Very short. I wanted to kind of trim down the format of these videos just to make sure I'm more capable of providing these videos on a more frequent basis rather than, film once and, spend the rest of the month on editing. So let me know in the comments if you enjoyed that kind of stripped down format. I'm just looking forward to providing more frequent videos just to keep you guys, up to speed on what I'm currently tasting. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, leave a comment if there's any particular whiskey, especially that kind of 15-year-old blended Scotch that you would want to either mention or want me to do a review of. And let's finish up the dram. Let's mark a debut of my Glencairn glasses because I'm filming at my home, so it's way easier to kind of, figure out logistics and obviously glassware. So thanks for watching. Cheers. And cue the outro.